To every season turn... No, that's enough of that. Some of you will wonder why that just happened, if the title of this video doesn't remind you of anything. If you watch the talking heads on the TV, or if you watch even independent bloggers all over the place and people with podcasts and whatever, you will find lots of people on the left and on the right righteously objecting to various authoritarian BS, the warmongering or the authoritarian this or the authoritarian that, and there's plenty of examples of things that are worth condemning. But almost always the discussion stops at a certain point, and most people don't even notice it, because after that point it gets uncomfortable for almost anybody. Now I'm going to start with an analogy. If we're talking about, there's some like psycho serial killer on the loose, and he broke into some family's house at 2 a.m. wielding an axe, and like the father whipped out a shotgun and shot him, and he's dead. Yay! And everybody goes, yay. Now, some people might also go, ooh, that's horrible and gruesome and too bad that happened, but also yay. Like, that was a better outcome than that not happening, than him not having a shotgun or not shooting the guy and another family getting chopped up by our hypothetical psychopath. So people can say that. It's not the most pleasant topic, but nobody's all that uncomfortable talking about that. But when it comes to all the things that people complain about, when it comes to authoritarian thuggery and authoritarian violence, like outright violence, notice how often the discussion stops at a certain point, and that is absolutely a result of indoctrination and mind control. And people constantly being barraged with propaganda. And I bring this up all the time. When people say, we're outraged that you're using our taxes to blow up innocent people over in Yemen or wherever they're doing it this week. Okay, you're outraged. It's horrible. I agree. That's really horrible. That's mass murder. Or if somebody's outraged, they're talking about suspending habeas corpus and being able to lock people up without charges based on stupid legal excuses. Or they're talking about doing warrantless searches of homes or whatever. That's horrible. It's unconstitutional. It's blah, blah, blah. Or they're talking about gun confiscation. That's horrible. We won't stand for it. Okay, what does that mean? You won't stand for it. You don't want it? Okay. Well, whoop-de-doo. Were you under the impression the ruling class gives a shit what you want? You think if you loudly tell them that you don't want to be treated like livestock, they're going to stop treating you like livestock? It's not how that works, or ever has anywhere in the world at any time in history. How often do these discussions, even among these like zealous Republicans on Fox News, this is just dreadful. Well, now they're all perfectly happy about throwing due process out the window and having authoritarian dictatorship because it's their guy on the throne. But when it's a Democrat on the throne suggesting such things and they're righteously outraged, where does their discussion stop? What do they not talk about? This is simply horrible. It's unconstitutional. We will not stand for it. Okay, what does that mean? Here's what I mean when I say it. If somebody with a badge shows up at your door without a warrant and tries to force his way in, you have the right, the absolute moral right to kill him. Now, if he does have a warrant, a lot of the time you have a right to kill him anyway. Because a lot of the time a warrant is just, you didn't do some random arbitrary thing that the crooks over there said you had to do. Like, that doesn't make it moral. Like, legality does not determine morality. Now, if they had a warrant because you murdered 7 people and there are corpses in your house, okay, then I'm going to be on the side of the cops because you're the murdering psycho. But let's, for now, just stick to, they don't even have a warrant, so it's what they're doing is illegal. It's an illegal raid. Unconstitutional, however you want to say it. But even among those conservatives or whoever who believes in law and legislation, we have to do this by the rules and by the law and by the Constitution, even though, as I pointed out before, 0 Republicans and 0 Democrats believe in the Constitution. But even within that context, okay, they're doing a warrantless invasion of somebody's home. And people can be outraged. Oh, here's this video we just had of the cops kicking down somebody's door and they didn't have a warrant and I didn't have and we're just outraged. What would your response be if they did that and the person who lived there whipped out a shotgun and blew their heads off? Would it be, well, you can't do that? Okay, so armed home invaders illegally barging in and being a threat to your family, you're allowed to defend yourself unless they have badges. Is that how it works? Is that how morality works? But look how many people, even those who are like zealously pro-Second Amendment, pro-freedom and pro-Constitution, whatever, they stop short of literally describing what would be morally justified. Now, as I've described 80 bajillion times, the question of what is a good idea, practically speaking, like what's going to end well for you, is a completely different question. Like if you forcibly resist cops doing evil crap, they're probably going to bring in more gang members and murder you. They have a habit of doing that. So I'm not saying on practical terms it's a good idea or that it will end well for you or that it's something you should do because like everybody decides how much crap they're going to put up with in order to avoid being killed. I'm not saying everybody should be martyring themselves. But when the question of moral justification comes up, there is a ton of stuff that absolutely morally justifies normal people forcibly resisting the aggression of the state in almost everything it does. But people are so uncomfortable to talk about this. And it's sort of especially weird among conservatives who go rah, rah, rah about the Declaration of Independence. Okay, what does that thing say? Well, among other things, it lists a bunch of complaints, which pale in comparison to the evil crap that the U.S. government does to Americans every single day in every state in the nation. But this wimpy little list of complaints about King George III, which is just like whoop-de-doo. That would be paradise compared to what we have now. Be that as it may, after listing a bunch of things that they weren't too pleased about, what did the Declaration of Independence say? Whenever a government becomes destructive of individual rights, are we going to pretend that's not now? It is the right and duty of the people to alter or abolish that government. That's what the Declaration of Independence says. Of all the conservatives that go rah, 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 how many believe that? No, some do. Some will actually talk about this. Like some people who believe in the Second Amendment will come right out and say, yeah, the main point of the Second Amendment is so the people have the ability to kill government agents. That is indisputable. If you look at the debates and the back and forth and from the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, that was why they wanted the Second Amendment. We want the people to be able to kill government agents if they decide things are so bad that we're going to frickin' kill you. And they said it a little more eloquently, less bluntly, but that's what it's for. And so when people say, oh, why does anybody need an AR-15? I have an AR-15 for one reason. Now, I don't hunt, so that rules that out reason. I have an AR-15 almost entirely so I have the ability to kill government agents. Oh my God! Doesn't mean I'm going to run around shooting people at random. I have a 12 gauge so I have the ability to kill other people. Now, I don't want to kill other people. Even if somebody isn't needed killing, I'm still not going to be too thrilled about having to do that. But if some psycho breaks into our apartment in the middle of the night, I'm going to shoot him and he's going to be dead. If I win, if he's armed and he wins, oh well. I'm going to shoot him and he's going to be dead. That's why I own a shotgun, so I have the ability to do something that I really, really hope I never have to do. So, shotgun, and I carry a Glock pretty often. That's for normal people. AR-15s and higher capacity rifles are way more useful if you're trying to resist thugs of the state. That is why I have one. Now, a lot of conservatives and fans of the Second Amendment are already going to be uncomfortable with this discussion, even though that is literally and specifically the reason the Second Amendment is there, so that the people always maintain the ability to violently resist their own government. That's what it was for. If you look at the debates, that is not debatable in any way, shape, or form. That's what it's for. So the question is, why do so many people find it so uncomfortable to talk about these things. They'll totally talk about, hey, if some psycho methed out of his gourd breaks through my window in the middle of the night, like, if I can stop him without killing him, I would do that. But if I think he's a threat to my family and all else fails, I'm going to shoot him and he's going to be dead. Like, that discussion doesn't make anybody all that uncomfortable. I mean, it's not a pleasant discussion. But nobody's like, oh, how could you? I mean, maybe there are a few complete, like, pacifist liberals. It's like, what do you mean, how could I? If the choice is that or letting him murder my family, yeah, that guy's going to die. But when you say the same thing and you describe the same moral principles, okay, now the psycho invading is going to do all the same things. He's going to attack us, but he's wearing a badge. Well, suddenly morality turned upside down. Suddenly the violent invader is the good guy, or at least good enough that you shouldn't forcibly resist him. So here's the part of the discussion you don't hear, and I think it's pathetic. They talk about, Trump's talking about suspending habeas corpus, maybe, invoking this law that obviously doesn't apply to suspend habeas corpus. And for those who don't know, if you don't know what habeas corpus is, don't ask Christy, whatever the hell her name is. Good Lord. If you don't know what I'm talking about. The head. What even is she? Is she head of DHS? When asked what habeas corpus is, she said, I can't even remember the wording. It was so convoluted. It wasn't even like grammatically coherent. She basically said it's a power the president has to remove people. It's literally the exact opposite. It's a principle that habeas corpus is Latin for basically having the body, holding the, like you're holding a person, you put him in a cage. And you're not allowed to put somebody in a cage unless you're charging them with something like a crime. And so to suspend habeas corpus means we get to lock people up without even accusing them of committing a crime. And so Trump is talking about we might have to do that. You got to do it. And a lot of people are like, this is outrageous. Now, a lot of conservatives are bootlicking imbeciles because they think their guy's on the throne, and so they're making excuses for it. But the ones who still have tiniest shred of respect for things like freedom and or even just the Constitution, which is a pretty low bar, they'll say, this is outrageous. Or the warrantless searches that they're talking about ICE doing. How many of them will say, if an ICE agent breaks into my apartment without a warrant and says he's looking for illegals, I would be absolutely justified in killing him. They're always armed. There's an armed intruder. They're obviously a danger and a threat to people. I would be absolutely justified in killing that guy who comes through my door without my permission. No warrant, no probable cause, just, we're looking for illegals. Oh, gee, you mean Trump used people's stupid fear of foreigners to advocate widespread authoritarianism used against the American people? Gee, who could have ever foreseen that happening? Be that as it may, of all the people, left and right, out there outraged at this or that injustice, or like, oh, the cops are like beating up innocent people. And this is a big one, because I would say the people on the left are even bigger hypocrites, because they still haven't sorted out the thing of cops are horrible and brutal and they beat people up and they're abusing innocent people all over the place. And by the way, only cops should have guns. Yeah, that's going to work out great, isn't like? Can you not put two and two together? If only they have guns and they're abusive assholes, bad things happen. 2 + 2 = 4. Can you not reason that out? But when liberals are complaining about, here's another 8 billionth example of, there was a thing, and I think it was here in Phoenix, of the guy with his hands up in the hall, scared to death, and the cop just murders him. It's on video. He recorded it and murdered him. I think the cop got fired, but I think I forget if he didn't get prosecuted. He just blatantly murdered somebody on film. No justification at all. Just murdered somebody on film. Lots of people, including a bunch of Democrats, can show that and go, this is horrible, this is unforgivable. But if I say, somebody should have shot that cop in his fucking head before this happened, they're like, well, you can't say that. You can't talk about that. If someone had the ability to kill the murderer before he committed murder, why does that make you uncomfortable? There's one reason it makes you uncomfortable. Because your entire life, you've been trained to view agents of authority as superhuman. They're not just people. Because if anybody else was, hey, there's a video of a guy with an AR-15 pointing at another guy in a hall and then he just kills him. If somebody says, maybe somebody should have shot that guy before he murdered the person with his hands up, everybody would say, well, yeah, that would have been a better outcome. Still unfortunate that anybody has to die, but that would have been a better outcome. Oh, by the way, the murderer had a badge. Oh, well, then that changes everything. No, it doesn't. It only changes everything in your mind if you've been indoctrinated into imagining that the badge and the costume actually gives that person superhuman rights. It actually alters morality when it comes to that mere mortal human being when he does evil crap. We can complain about it. We can whine. In a few years, we can vote for some other power-happy piece of crap who's going to do the same thing, and it's going to keep happening. But don't you dare suggest that the victims of immoral aggression actually resist if the aggressors have badges. If they don't have badges, you're allowed to advocate that and talk about it openly and bluntly. But if you talk about it openly and bluntly, even a bunch of conservatives get sort of squeamish. Now, some of them don't. Some people who actually understand history and understand the Second Amendment will say, yeah, if you come to take my guns, I'll kill you. And different people have different lines in the sand. I've mentioned some of mine. Like, I go along with a bunch of stuff. I have a driver's license and some dumb crap like that I don't think I have any moral obligation to do, but I do it so that the mafia doesn't beat me up. But there are some things where I have a line in the sand, yet that's not happening. You're not taking my guns. I may just hide them instead of killing you. But if you come to disarm people and you're randomly going door to door disarming people, I'm probably going to shoot you. And I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to be quiet about it. I'm not going to be secret or like, I'm not really going to say out loud that I would do this. Here I am saying out loud in front of you, in front of a camera. If a cop tries to disarm me, I believe I have every right to kill him. Just like if anybody else just decided to disarm me out of the blue. Well, I don't trust you to have a gun, so hand it over, he says, while pointing a gun at me. Well, then if I have the chance, I'm going to kill you. And I'm not going to tone it down and cover it with euphemisms it's sickening how often even conservatives, their spine just dissolves and they go, well, at some point people have the right to resist tyranny. Okay, could you be more specific? No. What do you mean? Like, if there's gun confiscation, well, that's what the Second Amendment's for. Okay, you're getting close. In order to what? Well, if they, and you can see them not want to say, if someone tries to disarm you, shoot them, make them be dead people. Then they can't disarm you because they're dead people. If someone tries to barge into your house without a warrant, and I'm saying shoot them, again, on practical terms, you may choose not to because you think, with good reason, that'll probably go very badly for you. But you have the absolute right to do it, whether you choose to for your own well-being or not, that's a different thing. But you absolutely, if some psycho with a badge and gun, or 2 or 10 of them, barge into your, oh, we got the wrong address. If you get the wrong address and do that, and the homeowner kills every fucking one of you, you deserved it. You did a violent armed invasion of somebody's home with no justification. Oh, well, we don't know how to read addresses because we're just law enforcement. Well, then you got to frickin' die. And if somebody killed every member of a SWAT team, they'd have to be pretty well armed. Every member of a SWAT team barging into the wrong house, the homeowner would be absolutely morally justified. And I would not shed one stinking tear for the thugs of the state dumb enough to do an armed invasion of somebody's house without making sure you're at the right address. But look how often that happens, and people are like, this is outrageous. He should sue the city. Well, yeah, although then the city just robs the taxpayer and gives him stolen money. The assholes who did it, they're not even going to get fired. They're not going to get arrested. They're not going to get prosecuted. They probably won't even get disciplined. But hey, if I just barged into the wrong house and pointed guns, I'm sure nothing bad would happen to me. Nobody would prosecute me. Yes, they would. And they would to you too. But people have this massive double standard if the aggressor has a badge, to the point they can't even think about it or talk about it in any sort of objective moral way. They can't actually apply principles to the most basic scenario. And I've been working on the script of the mirror. One of the scenarios that comes up, depending on what they answer, is, okay, there you are. It's a traffic stop, and you see the cop throw a little baggie of white powder in the back of your car and go, oh, what's that? Let's say it's just you and the cop. He's armed. You know he just framed you. And you know that's a serious crime if, in what state you're in. That's years and years of you being in a cage because this cop just made it up. He just planted it on you. Now, are you obligated to let yourself be caged? Are you obligated to risk it by, well, I'll just go on trial and tell them I saw him put it in? And he's going to say, no, I didn't, and I'm a respected law enforcer. I've been on the force for 8 bazillion years, so you have to believe me. Do you have any obligation to allow yourself to be put through any of that? Or the moment he tosses that in your back seat and his intention is obvious, do you have every right to go, bam? You're just a kidnapper and a violent thug and a liar and a crook. You get to die. That would absolutely be justified on the spot, not sue them later, not petition, not protest, not go to court. Kill him. He is absolutely acting as an illegal kidnapper. You have every right to kill him. If he obviously is doing something where he's trying to frame you and put you in a cage for years, you have every right to kill him. He is a kidnapper. He's a violent thug and a kidnapper. Now, again, you may choose not to because you realize, well, if I do that, lots of other thugs are going to show up and it's going to go really badly. So again, the practical is a different question. But how many people, when they see, because there are lots of videos of cops doing exactly that. And it's like, well, there was a disciplinary inquiry and, oh, he lost his job.
Hey, bro, what's that?
What's what?
That you just threw in here.
What word?
I got you on camera, bro.
I got you on camera. We're all good.
Hey, bro, you just threw that in here.
Yeah.
He tried to put someone in a cage for years. Completely unjustly, not even legally, not even for actually having drugs, which is bogus enough. But he pretended they did and tried to do something he knew would put this person in a cage for years. And he lost his job? You think somebody working at 7-Eleven? Well, I tried to kidnap my neighbor for 10 years. But gosh, he got away. But I got fired. Man, it's so unfair. You think that's it? You think that's what would happen to somebody who tried to kidnap his neighbor? Nope. Not for anybody else would that be anywhere near the standard. Only for the psychopaths with badges. And the thing is, again, on the practical side, the vast majority of the time, I suggest not violently resisting the thugs of the state because they probably outnumber you and probably outgun you. I know some people they don't outgun, but that isn't me. Most of you are going to be outgunned, including me, are going to be outgunned by the fascists and outnumbered. So most of the time, on a practical basis, it's probably a good idea to not escalate it to a shootout if it's at all possible. Now, for me, there are some lines in the sand. You decide your own, where I don't care what the outcome is. You're not doing that. Like if back when I had a young child, if you're coming to steal my child, I'm going to kill you. If you're coming to try to take my guns away, I'm going to kill you. And then I'll run off and hide somewhere. Unless I can hide my guns and then not have to kill you. But before any of that, before the practical question, people have to be able to think and talk about these things. And even the vast majority of conservatives and even libertarians who consider themselves all pro-freedom and anti-government, they get all uncomfortable even just having the discussion. And again, it's particularly weird among conservatives because they go rah, rah, rah about 4th of July and Declaration of Independence where a bunch of illegal terrorist criminal rebels said, we're not obeying the government anymore, and if you try to force us, we're going to shoot you. That's what the Declaration of Independence was. I mean, it was more eloquently worded than that. It's a little more precise and thorough in their reasons why they were doing that. But the redcoats, those were the enforcers of the government of that place. It was a British colony, and the people there were just saying, screw the cops. The people there became cop killers. It's like, yeah, we're not doing what you bastards say anymore, and if you try to make us, we're going to shoot you. And then there was a big shootout, and today lots of conservatives go rah, 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 and they go rah, rah, rah about the Declaration of Independence that says it's the right and the duty of people to alter or abolish any government that violates individual rights. You go rah, rah, rah about a document that says that you have the duty to get rid of this monstrosity that's robbing you and all your neighbors. Not even just the right, you have the duty to do that. And not only are you not doing that, and again, for practical reasons, it's like, well, it's a numbers game. If 3 of us try to resist, we get a tank in our living room. That's the end of that. But most of you can't even talk about it. You can't even think about it inside your own head. The idea of when is it justified to forcibly resist thugs of the state? And the answer is when it's justified to use brute force against thugs of the state if they do something that would make it justified to use brute force against absolutely anybody else doing the same thing. If somebody is doing something that justifies you defending yourself by force, it makes no stinking difference, morally speaking, whether they have a badge or not, or a law telling them they're allowed to do whatever arbitrary authoritarian bullshit they're trying to do. No difference at all. And this is the thing, is I know it's an uncomfortable discussion talking about the use of deadly force in any context. I mean, a little bit uncomfortable. It's not the most pleasant topic. And a lot of people aren't to the point, like a lot of people don't want to own guns because they're like, I'm not sure I could even use it to defend myself, like the idea of killing somebody else. And to them, I would say, please don't have a gun. Because if you have a gun, it probably just means whoever kills you now has a gun. Like, you need to get yourself mentally to the point where you would actually make use of the thing. Sometimes just brandishing it a lot of times will scare people away, but I wouldn't have a gun if I didn't dare to use it. So some people, they can't even even if they'd say, well, of course it would be justified, but I'm not sure I could do it. Okay, that's fine. That's just whether you're mentally prepared for a certain rather unpleasant possibility or not. But to be able to talk and think about the idea of doing that against agents of the state is a different thing. And the only reason that's uncomfortable for anybody is because of the constant indoctrination, the constant conditioning in school, by most parents, by almost everybody, by the entire society, by the news, by government propaganda, obviously. All of the things that say they are authority, they have the right to control you, you have an obligation to obey. And even if they do something really, really bad they weren't supposed to, your only proper civilized recourse is to ask an authority above them to please do something about it. That is the mindset of a slave, and that is how most people think. Because most people don't want to consider the fact that you're still just people. You can do these rituals and scribble this bullshit and call it legislation. You're still just people. You have the same rights as everybody else and no more. And if you barge into my house or my apartment for no good reason, armed, I have the right to kill you. I also have the right to not kill you or run away or try to deal with it later. But even just people getting to the point where they're able to have the conversation is huge. Because if you actually got a population that instead of saying, we're outraged if you do warrantless searches, we're outraged. If instead they say, if you do warrantless searches, we're going to kill you. Warrantless searches won't happen. There was actually some talk in Arizona, I don't remember the details, and I'm too lazy to look it up before I edit this video. There was some talk, it wasn't even like trying to force the vaccine, but there was some talk of, like, we're going to go door to door offering this vaccine to people, and I don't remember if it was Phoenix or some other place in Arizona or whatever. But they were talking, we're going to go to door, offering it, not requiring it, not like armed agents making you take it, but just offering it. And in about 2 seconds, they were like, never mind, we're not doing that. Because tons of people said, if you show up in my door, I'm going to kill you. Now, in that case, I wouldn't even say that's justified. If they just go, hey, do you want a shot of stuff you don't understand that you don't at all need and may kill you? Like, well, if you're just offering, first of all, you're demented and evil and you should probably do some research before pushing this evil crap on people. I won't shoot you for offering it. Now, if you show up with somebody with a gun, that's going to be a different story. And there's a weird Trump quote. I realize he's sort of mushy in the head and a lot of what he says, he doesn't even know what he meant. That weirdly sounded like, we're going to have the military and we're going to deliver the vaccine in a very strong way. It was almost like that's pretty close to his wording. I was like, what the hell did that mean? And I don't think it all the way meant we're going door to door with the military making people take the injection. But the fact that it sort of sounded like that, like enough people responded by, if you show up trying to make me take an injection, I'm going to kill you. And enough people said that when Governor of Arizona did it, it was like, never mind, we're not going to do that plan. That plan's a bad plan. But that's what it takes. The tyrants don't care if you're outraged. They don't care if you petition and protest. If you go out there and say, here's all the reasons I don't like it, are you going to resist? No. Okay. That's the only thing they care about. You can whine until you're blue in the face. They don't give a shit. All they want to know, and this is all they care about for gun confiscation too. If we show up and say, hand over your guns, there's a new law, are you going to go, this is horrible, this is unconstitutional, it's illegal, here are my guns? If you'll do that, they don't give a shit about anything that came before here are my guns. They're going to do it. The only reason they don't do it is the smaller percentage of the population that says, if you try to take my guns, I will fucking kill you. That is the only reason they haven't tried gun confiscation in the U.S., like nationwide. They try it in places and succeed in some places where they could get away with it. Hurricane, was it Katrina in Louisiana? Where the chief of police was like, we're going to go door to door. Only the police will have guns. We're going to confiscate all the guns.
Sometimes entering open houses with guns drawn and instructions to disarm anyone inside.
You say guns will be taken?
No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
I was like, okay. If anybody tried that in like rural Arizona, that would end rather quickly and brutally. And I would be one of many who would end it that way. It's like, you're here for my guns, really? Because a hurricane's coming, really? Okay, or it already hit. Alrighty, let's see how that works out. But the number of people capable of even describing forcible resistance to forcible aggression is pathetically low. And that's the thing, is they even have to euphemize, which isn't a word, the violence of the state. Well, if they carry out a policy, you mean show up with guns and point them at people and demand that people do things? Because that's violence. Like a huge amount of what cops do is either by brute force or under the threat of violence. Like I've explained a million times. The red and blue lights, that's a threat of violence. You will stop or I will call in more and more of my gang members and we will make you stop one way or another. And if you make us call in more, we'll probably do nasty things to you. It's not a polite request. Hey, can I have a few words with you? It's you will stop or nasty things will happen to you. It's a threat of violence. And almost everything the cops do is either violent or backed by a threat of violence. But even that, when people talk about it, they don't talk in blunt, accurate terms. Well, some people do. Like voluntarists and anarchists do way more often than anybody else. Like the road pirate threatened me with violence and then demanded some money from me. Like that's what actually happened. Not, oh, well, he gave me a citation and a ticket for having expired registration or something. Funny how none of that says out loud the violence, the threat of violence behind that. You're going to give us this money Or we're going to say you're not allowed to drive. And if we catch you driving without it, then we're going to put you in a cage by force. And people just don't talk about that. But when the brute violence is obvious, because they're literally like violently invading somebody's home, even then, when anybody with the slightest hint of a moral principle would say, yeah, the homeowners have the right to shoot the person coming in without a warrant, to just barge in and say, oh, we're looking for illegals or whatever. No probable cause, no warrant, not even a crappy law on their side. And the violence is, undeniable. Bunch of people with machine guns kicking down a door. It's kind of hard to pretend that's not violence. Even then, a lot of people don't want to talk in terms. And it's a bunch of conservative, Glenn Beck. Like, ages ago, I wrote an article, which later became a video, called When Should You Shoot a Cop? And it's exactly about this. And exactly as predicted, the article and then the video starts by predicting it. And then exactly what it predicted is what happened. Glenn Beck had a tantrum. Oh, somebody's handing out these "When should you shoot a cop" flyers at some event. I forget what event it was. This was years ago. How could anybody say such a thing? How could you be such an idiotic slave that you think the answer is never? Have you read a history book? The cops in the Soviet Union, in Mao's Red China, in Nazi Germany, under Pol Pot, in North Korea, you don't think it was ever justified for the people to forcibly resist the law enforcers of those regimes? Or in this country, when the law said, yeah, you're allowed to own that person, and we'll use violence against anybody trying to help them escape, you don't think it would have been justified then? But Glenn Beck and lots of others, he's one who did it loudly. Now, of course, he didn't get the title right. He didn't say my name. He didn't make it so anybody could actually look it up and see what he said. He just pissed himself over the mere question of when should you shoot a cop. But the video just lays out, hey, there's been a massive amount of tyranny and injustice committed by law enforcement. Way more has been done in the name of authority than in spite of authority. Now, at some point, do people have the right to forcibly resist? So here's a guy who pretends to believe in the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment says, yeah, when they are tyrannical, shoot them. That's what it's for. But here's this supposed conservative, among many others. I'm only singling him out just because he had a public tantrum about my particular article, who pee themselves at the idea of people righteously, morally defending themselves against aggression by state thugs, because conservatives are some of the most indoctrinated around, and so delusional that they'll have a pickup truck that says, come and take it, with a Gadsden flag right next to a thin blue line. Yeah, those are the ones who are going to come take it. What are you going to do when they do? Well, I'm going to write to my congressman after I hand over my guns. Okay, then you're a slave just as much as the left, just as much as everybody else who goes along with it. Anyway, so I'm just going to end this with a question. Are you able to think about and talk about, not are you going to do it tomorrow and die in a righteous hail of gunfire? Not suggesting people go martyr themselves, but are you able to think about and talk about, including with people you know? Like if somebody says, I think it's horrible they're talking about suspending habeas corpus. Me too. And I think if they try that, people have the right to kill them. That'll make a crowd quiet really fast. But that's what it's important to say it. Is like, why is that? If you all know this is evil and horrible and illegal and unjust, why is the thought of actually resisting it such a trigger for so many people, including conservatives? Because you were trained to bow to political authority, just the way a dog is trained. The idea of not having your master's approval, the idea of biting your master, that's just unthinkable. You might go bite a squirrel or bite some other dog or bite some random person, but not your master. And everybody, conservatives included, were trained and indoctrinated and propagandized to view political parasites as their rightful lords and masters, to the point where when the thugs of the state attack, most of them don't even like to think about and talk about the absolute right of people to defend themselves against aggressors, even if the aggressors have badges. And of course, Oh, I did a talk. It might be online. I did a talk called Why Speak of Violence at Porkfest years back. And they just banned, they banned somebody, I just remembered who it was. I'm not going to bring it up. Somebody else wanted to do a talk about the use of defensive force against state thugs. And there was a big hubbub and like, we can't have a talk about that. And I gave my talk at like an offshoot of the event because we don't want talk. And I said, what absolute cowardice and hypocrisy. We believe in freedom, but don't actually talk about the fact that when the state violently assaults you, you have the right to defend yourself. You don't believe in freedom. You just believe in being a whiny, begging slave asking the master to be nice. Because freedom necessarily includes the right of self-defense, including against legal aggressors. So many times, even throughout the movement and conservatives, so many people still have a hard time saying, yeah, I will go along with this because if I resist, bad things might happen. But let's be clear, if you do this or this or this to me, I have the absolute right to kill you to stop you. Probably won't for the sake of, myself, my family, whatever. But I am absolutely justified if you commit violent aggression against me. I have absolutely justified resisting by whatever level of force it takes, including if you're escalating it to a threat of deadly force or the use of deadly force, I have the right to kill you. That is so foundational to the concept of freedom and self-ownership. Because anything else says, I own myself unless agents of the state decide I don't, and then I can beg their permission. And it's weird to see how many people who basically believe in pro-freedom stuff still obviously have that stuck in their brain to the point that they can't even bring themselves to talk about the concept. And so, yeah, I suggest you think about and talk about the concept, even if it's way before you're going to do it, even if you choose to go along in order to not have a tank in your living room. But learn to think about it and talk about it, because if people never do, if people can never get even their brain to the point of thinking about disobeying and resisting tyranny, you're doomed. You will be oppressed forever. Because why the hell would the tyrant ever stop oppressing you as long as there's zero chance of you disobeying and resisting? Yeehaw.